Hey, it's Jeffrey Howard from Mastermind Mentor International. Thank you for being here for Finish Strong Friday, hashtag FSF. We're going to get started here in just a minute, but before we do, please click the like button, click the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and you might want to hit that notifications button, that little bell. It's going to give you an update every time we upload a new video so that you can stay up to date with what we do here. Finish Strong Friday is all about mindset. 90% of your success or failure falls right here between your ears, right? So we're giving you strategies, not just of positive thinking, which is all great, not just powerful tools and affirmations, which are all great, but actual tools for productivity, for mindset strategy, and things that you can do to stay on track and stay focused and stay motivated as an entrepreneur. So we're going to get started right now in exactly 7 seconds. Here we go.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
And we are live and here for Finish Strong Friday. Hashtag FSF. Happy Friday, everyone. We hope you have been rocking your week. My name is Jeffrey Howard. My business partner, Eric Jacobson, is here on the phone. And he'll be back in a minute. So we do these trainings every Friday. We're right now live in the Facebook group as well as live on our live webinar. And we are focused here on Finish Strong Friday on basically mindset training and strategy. So what that basically means is it's not just all about positive thinking. It's all about what do you do to execute on your very best life. And today we are going to be talking about something that is near and dear to our hearts that we've done in a number of different ways and experienced in the past, but came across some material this morning from somebody I never heard of before. I had a really cool approach to this. So we are going to be talking today about the roadmap to your future self. So do you like the idea of being able to see into your future? Do you like the idea of being able to actually look inside a crystal ball that is your mind and create the exact future that you want? Type into the chat yes if that's what you're looking for in your life. We're going to see if we can help you to make that happen today. If you're on the
this whole topic came about from us having a conversation with a real good friend of ours, and he said, you know, he just made a comment, you know, just in passing, you know, it was that comment that Jeff, you know, just wrote down. He said, "Oh, I love that. I love that."
Yeah, he said, people who are committed to a future version of themselves, basically. That's the kind of people you want to work with. Yeah. So, you know, it just was really inspiring, and you know, realized again we've done similar type of work to this, but this is kind of a fun process. It's a very fun process actually, but it's not just a game, guys. It's not just about playing in a fantasy world, even though it is playing in that world, right? It's about literally creating what you want. So you have to know what that is before you can create it. And what we want to do is give you a roadmap and a path to be able to do that here today. And before we do, by way of just quick background for anybody who might be watching a recording or never seen us before, my name's Jeffrey Howard. I'm a peak performance coach and just general all-around guy who loves serial entrepreneurship and everything about life, and just trying everything I can to make a bigger, better life all the time for myself, for our clients, for anybody that comes into contact with us. So, the idea is everything is energy. Everything is either raising or lowering your vibration, and my goal is to help to be something that raises your vibration, raises your frequency, helps you with, tools and strategies that you need to move forward. And let me turn it over to Eric for a quick introduction, and then we'll rock.
Yeah. So my name's Eric. I live here in St. Paul, Minnesota, in which we are having the very first nice day of the year. I also am an entrepreneur, been a business coach in some capacity for the past 25 years, helping people with their personal lives, their business lives, and excited for this training today. This is going to be great training, good for me and good for you. I think you'll really enjoy it.
For sure. We always talk about
for some reason you're I don't know why
you froze up.
You're delayed a lot on my end.
Everything's cool now for me, but you were frozen for a second. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about the roadmap to your future self. So, look, one of the really coolest things about this future self idea is that it gives you the ability to think differently, to be more focused and purposeful on your goals. And by the way, again, before I go down this path too far, I want to give a shout out this, a lot of times we come in with either original material or our spin on original material, but this is actually was really inspired by, aside from the comment that was made by our friend yesterday, this is from an article that was written by a gentleman named Adam Hergenrother, who I've never heard of before today. It looks like he's mostly in the real estate space and a speaker and, does motivation in that space, entrepreneur as well. So I just really like the way he laid this out. We're going to be working from an outline of his on this. And so I just wanted to make sure to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, again, one of the coolest things about this future self concept is it gets you to be thinking differently, to be more purposeful, to be more focused around your goals. So the future self is like your compass. It's like your navigation system. It's going to help you to bring your vision, your dreams into clarity, have clear focus around it. So you're not just like floating around, going downstream or trying to swim upstream without a paddle, without direction. So the future self is about creating the life that you want. It's about thinking bigger maybe than you've ever thought in your life. It's not a time to think small. It's not a time to put limits on yourself. But I want to ask you, where will you be in 3 years, right? That's really at the core of this exercise. Where will you be in 3 years? I'm a big fan of 3 to 5 year goals because they're foreseeable, but I also think it's important, and I don't think he really talks about this in here, but we break things down into 90-day increments. It doesn't have to be even quarters of the year, but 90 days is a really great momentum builder for you. If you set goals for 90 days, 90 days is something where you can actually see the progress that you're making. So it's important to break this down into 90-day increments. Give yourself a 3-year vision and then move backwards from there and break this down into what do you need to do in the next 90 days to achieve that goal and start moving down that path. So, bottom line here is we just really want to give you a simple exercise to help you to see what your life will look like in the next 3 years and build this roadmap to your future self. So that's going to be a guide for where you're going, for what you're going to do, for what's going to show up for you, who you want to become in that process. Really, the possibilities are endless. It's your life. You control your destiny. You have the choice. So the way Adam does this is he breaks it down into 6 categories.
Can I get into something before we get there?
Yeah.
So the way I like to think about this is, look, 99.9% of people, I believe almost everybody, just goes through life just floating along, letting circumstances happen to them. They have no roadmap that they're following for their own life. They just like wake up in the morning and do whatever happens, and they do that day after day after day, and they never have a plan that they're working towards. So one of my core beliefs that I've carried for a very long time is there is no competition for success. There's no competition for success because most people are just defaulting their way through lives. They have no plan. And so just by doing this exercise, just by following this process, you set yourself so far apart from 99.9% of the people out there that, you're not competing at that point, because they're, people that are striving towards success in their life they're just far and few between. So if you take this to heart and you implement what we're about to teach, I think you're going to get so much farther in life than you would otherwise. So anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a really great point. I think it would shock you if you could really see how few people consistently take any action toward any type of a goal. You can just look around you and see what's going on. People who have basically just settled for their lives instead of created their lives. And, being in exercises like this, being in a life process like that, like this, for us, this is like an ongoing thing. And the cool thing about this too, by the way, as we go through it, it's not static. It doesn't have to, okay, I've created this goal, and until I meet that goal, I'm not even going to take my eyes off of that. Even if something changes in my life or I feel differently or I want to adjust that goal, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay super focused on just this. It doesn't need to be that rigid. It can be flexible with you. You may decide in 6 months that the goal that you set for your professional life, for example, you may adjust that. You probably will. I mean, I'd say we adjust our goals about every 90 days. We check in and then we say, okay, what's working, what's not working, or do we really want to be doing that at this point? We make those adjustments all the time. So, we're going to break this down into 6 categories. I think these are right in line with kind of all the areas of life that we typically talk about. And I'll just break down the 6 categories really quickly, and then we'll go through each one and talk about, you know, what you can do with it. So the 6 categories are professional, financial, physical, social, family, and spiritual. So Eric, if you want to go ahead and take the first one, then we'll go ahead and move through this.
Yeah. So the first category is professional. And so while this can be a part of financial, it absolutely is a part of financial. It also includes what your career is and what your business is. So what's the next career step? Like what's the next thing that you need to be doing career-wise, not just income-wise, that's going to move you towards where you want to be in your future yourself. So are you self-employed? You know, do you want to work life integration, you know, balance? Do you want to have a lifestyle? And that's kind of what I design. I kind of design it all together so that I continuously have a pretty good balance between, you know, having fun and doing the things I want to do, and then and doing the work. I mean, I do work very hard, but I just kind of strive when I think of professionally. I just want to have flexibility within that and work that way. So do you need to find a new company that aligns better with your values? Do you need to start a side hustle? You know, it's funny because like Jeff and I, we live in side hustles, right?
Right.
And that's like
our daily hustle is a side hustle here.
Yeah, that's our life, right? I mean, everything's kind of a side hustle. On the side of our us living our life. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put that. I love that, because I was thinking about this actually pretty in depth in a meditation the other day. Like, you know, I have people tell me on a regular basis, wow, you're just so busy. You know, like you seem really busy. And I'm like, I don't know, you know, like, yeah, I'm always working on something, but you know, I'm not busy. Like my schedule's all packed out and I don't have time for this and that. Cause I mean, if you really look at my life, I mean, you know, nearly every day I go hiking for a couple of hours, you know? So like, you know, I spend time like last night, you know, when the day was over, I didn't have anybody here. My son's at his mom's, you know, my fiance's, you know, in her town, and I made myself a nice steak dinner. I mean, like just sat out on the patio, enjoyed the sunset, had a glass of wine. It was phenomenal. Like, yeah, I'm really busy having a life. And that's what Eric's talking about. And that's the way we work our lives. We design the lifestyle we want to have and build the business or the side hustles or the, you know, regular hustles around that. You know, we're all about creating multiple streams of income. So that's why Eric says, you know, it's sort of like a perpetual side hustle that we're in. So yeah, it's a lot of fun though, to live your life that way. And the fun part about it is like, again, you can just vision, what do you even want your next day to look like? You know, if you think that you've got to work 16 hours a day to make things happen, I know that's an area where I really depart from the typical sort of heavily driven, you know, type A personality entrepreneur. You know, we're definitely
your checks of the world or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm all about the hustle, but you know, if you really look at how your brain functions, you can't go 16 hours straight. You can't go 14 hours straight and still be productive. And we've had other trainings about productivity and how that really affects you. And the more I study sleep and rest and how that fits into the equation, which I've been spending a lot of time lately, because I'm writing a book that's going to include some stuff about that, the more I realize, like, you really do just need to stop. Even if you love what you're doing, you need to just stop. And, you know, sleep is everything, right? Very few of us are getting enough sleep. So anyway, I don't want to go off on that tangent. We'll save that for another day. But yeah, build your business around your life, I guess is really the way I want to say it. Build what you want to create on the professional side around the life you really want to have.
So getting back to designing your future self, thinking 3 years ahead, is what you're doing right now professionally, is that what you see yourself doing in 3 years? And if it's not, you know, make a change, you know, like, cause I've done this a few different, I'll tell you an example. One time I was at a trade show. I owned a business, and it was a weird business. I was in the amusement. I was selling to people that did like coin operated machines and like vending machines and things like that. And that business, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now, that business is like it's like mobsters. I'm serious. It's like cash. It's like cash, money laundering.
Money laundering.
Money laundering. Totally is. So I'm in Vegas at this show. I'm walking around and I'm saying to myself, do I see myself? Am I going to be doing this in 3 years?
I know a guy.
I mean, it's totally like that. It totally was that. You know, and I'm like, you know, it's like Vinny from Alabama that runs this, you know, Vinny that lives in Alabama that runs this, you know, vending machine route. And anyways,
that's
I was walking around and I'm like, I'm not doing this in 3 years. And I left there and I'm like, and I just shut that business down and I quit doing it because I just didn't see myself doing that in 3 years. And so I just pulled the trigger on it and moved on, went to something different.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny, we've talked in some trainings about negative motivation. Like, you know, when you're looking at this 3-year vision you're creating, imagine yourself, like for a second, imagine yourself if 3 years from now, you're still doing exactly what you're doing today. And if that doesn't light you up, then it's time to make some changes. It's time to work on that side hustle. It's time to pull that dream out of the drawer and dust it off and start moving forward towards something you really want to create that contributes to the world in the way you want to be contributing to the world. So, you know, this is really important. And, you know, arguably, I mean, maybe there's some things that are more important of these 6 or in terms of priority, but I honestly do not believe that you can create the life that you want without having the profession that you want that's generating the finances that you need, which leads us into number 2, which is the financial. Like how much money do you want to make? Is your current path going to get you there? Do you want to have a certain amount of that be passive income or, you know, residual passive income, which is even better? And how often and how much do you want to be investing? Do you need to get out of debt? I mean, for a lot of people, that's like the number one thing. You know, we talk to people all the time that are just up to their eyeballs in debt and they have no idea how they're going to get out unless they tap into one of the side hustles that we're doing and you know, tap into the systems and make some of those things work. So how much are you going to need to get out of debt? You know, we're really big on understanding your numbers. You know, one of the first things, like when I sit down with a coaching client, first thing we talk about, if the conversation is around building your business, it's like, well, what do you need to do first to be able to walk away from what you're doing for a living now, if that's your intention? You know, what are your actual numbers? Like, what do you need to have on a monthly basis to make sure that your nut is covered? You know, whatever your basic expenses are that are covered. What do you need to do then that go over and above that to be able to fund the new business, to be able to put money into marketing or whatever it is that you need to do for that? So you need to understand what your numbers are. How much debt is it? How much do you need to make to be actually chipping away at that debt instead of making those minimum payments that are just killing you over time? You know, and guess what? I mean, we're not coming from some high pedestal here. You know, we've been there and done that. You know, to some extent, we're doing it still. You know, we still have to make those adjustments.
I've got some debt I need to get out of.
Exactly, totally
weighing on me. You know, weighing on
happens when you have a family.
Yeah.
So, how much money do you want to give? And you know, do you want to give back to charity or to whatever causes are actually passions for you? And then, what's your net worth goal? Do you have a net worth goal right now? Net worth meaning all of your assets minus all of your expenses is your net worth, you know? So, yeah, so that's financial side. So, you know, it's really important to understand what those numbers are. And while financial and professional overlap, they're not the same thing.
Yeah. And the key to this, I believe, is like, you need to, so if you're envisioning your future self and the future self is 3 years from now, it needs to be something where it needs, you know, it can't be like, I want to be worth $100 million in 3 years. Because if your mind doesn't if it's not a believable situation, if you have a plan, if there's a way that you can do that, I mean, for sure.
Go for that, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us what that is, by the way. Share that with us if you have a plan to get to 100 million in 3 years. We'd like to know about that. That's a good side hustle for us.
Yeah. So, but if you're like, if you know, the number's $100 million and you're currently making $4,000 a month, you know, your brain is just going to shut it down and like not going to allow you to go there. if there's not a viable plan to hit those numbers.
For sure. Well, I mean, you can put things into place that will get your brain there, but it takes some time. So you're going to get some resistance initially if it's just way off the charts for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we want you to get there. Okay. So physical, this is a big one for me. So how do you want to look? How do you want to feel? Write down what you're going to do to achieve that. Cause really at the end of the day, it's what you do. It's not what you want to do. It's not what you're going to do. It's what you actually do. So it can be tied to a weight, could be tied to a body fat percentage, could be tied to, how many days a week do you want to exercise, or it could be tied to going to a retreat, a yoga retreat or something like that, or, having some specific health goals like lowering your blood pressure or increasing your flexibility, which as you get older becomes a huge, huge deal. I mean, just being more flexible, being lower weight is one thing, but continuing to be a flexible person, I mean, is a big deal as you get older. So working on that specifically is a great target. But yeah, I mean, I'm all about, we're all about everything's energy and like moving your body physically helps your brain so much come up with the ideas that you need to come up with to be able to execute on this 3-year future self. So moving your body every day in a way that's going to move you forward is going to be huge. And so you got to start somewhere. Like if you have not been doing anything, do something, man. Start super small.
Anything. Just do anything.
Yeah. Super small.
Do one push-up. Take a walk around the block.
One push-up. I'm going to do one push-up every day. That's what I'm going to do. And after a while, you're going to be, I might do 2 today, and it's just doing something, and it's being consistent and doing it every day. So anyways, what do you think?
100%. And you know what? I mean, we work with a lot of people I'll just say generally in our age bracket, so 40 plus, but even up into the 70s, and people who are really vital or really want to be, and we're both in our 50s. I'm just like last year, my 50s, I'm on the 60th circle around the sun. So, but I have always, I've always strived to see what else is possible. Like, we grow up with these ideas that your physical self starts to deteriorate at a certain point. We've seen it happen with our parents or our grandparents or whatever, but we know for a fact that does not have to be true. It makes a difference what you put in your body. It makes a difference what you do with your body. It makes a difference what you do with your mind. So keeping active mentally, it veers you away from things like Alzheimer's and, some of the things that start to cause the brain to deteriorate. There's so much we could talk about in this area, and we will. But just generally speaking, if you feel like you're in a bracket where, I've already kind of, signed my physical deterioration warrant, right? I'm on my way downhill. Stop thinking like that, because you don't have to be. There's things that actually literally reverse the aging process. And what I mean by that is in terms of cellular restructuring and regeneration, there are things that you can do. We're both in this sort of neurobiohacking space too. Been learning a lot about what you can do to maintain physical and mental prowess as you age, as you get older. Because look, I want to be here for a long time, but I don't want to be here all, having all sorts of physical problems. It's not worth it. But I feel like I have a lot to do, and you have to stay physically in good shape and mentally in good shape to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love
okay.
it.
So the next one, number 4, is social. So this is the sort of part where you can maybe play even more. I think the whole thing, for me, the whole thing is just a big game that I just want to win. And so, but this is the part where you're talking about fun and recreation and not, the things that you have, the relationships you have that are not necessarily family, which we'll get into next. So how many vacations do you want to take over the next 3 years? And get specific about that. Where do you want to go? Like on my vision board, I have a couple of bucket list vacations, but I have one specific place, and I've never been there. When I see pictures of it, it just resonates with me as a place that I feel like I could see myself sitting on a villa overlooking the bay there. It's the Amalfi Coast in Italy, just to give it a name. Okay, so blue water, old style architecture, just a place where I can't even imagine myself feeling any stress whatsoever, just being there, right? So I have a picture of that on my board, and I think about that all the time. And I have created this future vision of myself, literally put myself in the plane on the way to the airport to go take that trip, what kind of plane it is. We have the cool chairs that turn into beds, so we're not going to have jet lag when we get to Rome. And it's really, really detailed, this story. And I even recorded it in my own voice and play it back. Sometimes I listen to it even while I'm sleeping, and I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to having that vacation, in Tuscany and the Amalfi Coast. So, what do you want to do? How often do you want to do it? Keep it simple too. How often do you want to get together with your friends for a coffee or a drink? If you're raising kids, how many play dates do you want you and your kids to go on every month? What do you want to do with your time in terms of giving back? Do you want to start volunteering for something? Do you have a particular cause that you feel like is a passion that drives you? What do you want to be doing in your social time, which is your work, your outside of work time?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I've been thinking about this actively just recently. I just reached out to a really good friend of mine that I haven't seen for a couple months. And I'm like, hey, let's go to lunch this week. What day works for you? Great. Oh, Monday works. Perfect. I'll see you at your office Monday. Let's have lunch. And then a different friend, I'm like when I was in my halo, somehow I just got really focused on Neil Young music, like unbelievable. I really never really listened to Neil Young that much, but I'd walk around and cry and listen to Neil Young. That's what I was feeling sorry for myself.
I feel like I have to write a country song just about that one thing right there.
So no, but I've got a friend of mine that actually he's friends of his are I don't know that they're friends with Neil Young, but they're like very big deadheads out and actually live in Petaluma. Anyway, so I reached out to John actually 2 days ago. I said, hey John, let's go to a Neil Young concert. I don't care where it is. Let's go to one. Let's put it on the calendar and jump on a plane and go to wherever he's playing. And I've never seen him live, and I'd like to see him. So, that's kind of falls into that deal, just like actively, paying attention to where you're at, socially, and then kind of taking action. Because that's, a lot of those things you can do like right now. You don't have to wait 3 years.
For sure. Let me just really quickly, I want to add something to that. And this has to do with awareness and like when you're creating your life, when you start to create these visions, things are going to show up that are going to support that. So if you're thinking about what you want to do socially, but you're also combining it with this sort of concoction of formula of what you want to do physically and how you want to be in your business and how you want to be financially, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, like you just get this, something pops into your head. Like Eric was just talking about, wow, I haven't talked to that friend of mine for, blah, blah, blah years. Well, guess what? You go out to coffee, you might turn out that your friend is actually either connected with somebody or is directly connected with something that actually fits the other things that are on this list. This is like, I have the firm belief that the universe conspires to help you to create whatever it is that you're thinking about, whatever it is that you're intending. And I have seen that proven out over my entire life. It wasn't until I started doing it intentionally that I could really kind of predict the outcome to some extent. So when things show up, no matter how subtle they seem, follow the trail a bit and see where that's going to go.
Yeah. So step number one, know what you want, right? You got to know what you want. You got to know exactly what you want. You got to be as crystal clear as you possibly can be. Step number two, pay attention to what shows up. And when things show up that seem like they might not be related, all of a sudden, they get weaved together, and it's exciting when that happens.
Yeah, we talked about a real specific process for this a couple of weeks ago in the 7 Days to Success training. It was exactly that. The two of those things are, be really clear about what you want and pay attention and follow the trail. Pay attention to what shows up.
Number 5 is family. So, what do you want your family structure to look like? So this is So I'm so used to people talking to people our age, with some of these questions that are in here. Do you want to have children? Well, I don't want to have any more children.
No.
I want to get married or get divorced. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know about that. But you want to have better relationships. That's the big thing. No matter how good your relationship is, it can always be better. With Mary, with Joey, with my parents, with my siblings, with my family, my extended family, it's getting clear on how you want that to look in your life, on your future self, and then taking the steps, to get there and paying attention to that part of your life, which in a lot of cases, when you're, A-style people like Jeff and I are, where you're kind of career driven and like driven in general in all things, a lot of times the family is the thing that kind of gets not thought about as much,
kind of gets kicked to the curb sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great to think about that and then make active steps to work that direction.
Yeah, that's something that I've really been working on more in depth myself lately, because I have a big family. I mean, I've got 4 boys. My fiance's got 4 girls. I can't let the cat out of the bag on some of the news that's happening, but their lives are progressing. My youngest is going to graduate high school next year. And so, I'm going to be empty nested essentially. And I have really been taking the time to reach out individually to each of my kids to have, just to check in, see what's going on, get together more often. Same with my parents. We're in the process of actually moving my parents locally part-time so that they're going to be back and forth between here and Arizona so they can spend more time around the grandkids and, ideally great grandkids coming at some point, et cetera. So you have to make a conscious effort for that stuff. It's really easy to let that stuff sort of fall by the wayside. Very important relationships in your life and if there's anything that you need to heal in those relationships, work on that, because the truth is you don't know how much time you have. I recently, a girlfriend of mine in high school lost her husband last week, a couple of weeks ago. And it really got me thinking, wow, this is a guy my age. This is a guy who, graduated the same year that I did. Wow. What's undone with your family relationships that you can, I think it's really important to feel like it on the last day, whatever that day is, did you get everything you wanted to get done with the people that are important to you in your life, not just your family, but, your friends and others in your life too. And I think generally in your life too, on your professional life too, did you do things you wanted to do?
Yeah. And if there's a relationship that needs healing, even if it's, and actually specifically, if you feel it's the other person's fault, to heal that, not to go and ask them but to do what you personally can to heal that relationship. No, don't go to them and say, hey, you wronged me, you need to apologize. That's not healing, but to do what you can to get that healed, because you holding a grudge against somebody for something that they did is like, you taking a poison pill and expecting the other person to die. It's like, it's hurting you, but it's not hurting that person. They probably aren't even aware of it. So
yeah, most cases they're not. Yeah. And you know what? The first place to start with that is just forgiveness. You can choose to forgive someone no matter what they did, no matter whether you feel like you need to be compensated in some way for that. It starts with you, and you'll be amazed at what that process can bring you and how that can heal relationships and maybe even bring relationships back into your life that you thought were gone forever. All right. So let's wrap up with the last one, arguably, maybe the most important, maybe not. It depends on how you live your life. It's certainly important, and that's the spiritual life. And I'm not talking about religion. Spirituality goes well beyond religion. Spirituality is about understanding the world, how much bigger it is than you, and how you fit into it. We're just a really small speck in the universe. When you look at the time, the time that the universe and the grand scheme that we've been here, we have just a fraction of a second in that scheme of things to really make our mark, to do the things that we want to do. And, it's important to understand that there's more to life than you, and you need to get outside yourself. So what does that mean? Like, what do you need to do to make that happen? It can be a religious practice for you if that religious practice is also very spiritually connected and not just sort of a dogma, a routine that you go through. But, what do you need to do to really get more connected with whatever that thing is to you? We're not here to promote any type of specific way of doing it, but, do you need to start your own meditation practice? Like, that's something that does wonders for me. I start my day with it virtually every day, and it just helps me to get into a place of being centered and clear. Do you need to start a gratitude journal or just a journal in general that had all those feelings out to explore, to ask the right questions? If you're a church-going person, do you need to spend more time going to church? Is that where you get your spiritual connection? Or do you have a ritual of some type for reminding yourself to keep an open heart or to keep connected with that, all that is, that universal consciousness, whatever you choose to call that or however you choose to experience it? So, a spiritual practice is important. It's also very personal. So again, we're not here to sort of tell people what they should and shouldn't do in that arena, but you should do something. Even if you're a practicing atheist, you gotta do something to stay connected with the movement of energy of the universe. So, we're kind of running short on time, but we've got a few best practices we can share with you on how you can kind of keep these things in mind as you're creating your future self.
Well, I think the whole, just going back to the gratitude journal, I just heard, I think it was Gary, or Grant Cardone just recently on a post on social media said, hey, get yourself a gratitude journal, set it next to your bed, and every night, write down 3 things you're grateful for that day. And then, at the end of the year, you're going to have 1,000 things that you're grateful for in that year. And that you can page through, and it's going to really make you feel great. Every time you've paged through that, you're going to see everything in your life that you're grateful for. And man, that's just a great place to be. I mean, that's a great little tip right there that you can use. You could execute that today. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something you can write down in, like anything. Any
kind of journal. I use composition books because I can keep them, they're bound, and so I can keep them, but you don't need a fancy journal. You don't need to go out and spend a bunch of money. Yeah. Get a composition book for $5 and just write in it.
Yeah. Get a spiral notebook for 44 cents. Yeah. Yeah. So, so anyways, so go ahead. I just had that the other day, so I wanted to touch on it, but go ahead. As far as
so just to capsulize that, the 6 categories where you want to really create your future self are broken down into professional, financial, physical, social, family, and spiritual. And just a few things that you can do or that you can keep in mind as you're creating this process, just think about what you want your life to look like in 3 years. 3-year increments work really well. And then what I would add to that is you want to also then break it down into like the workable chunks. So break it down into 90-day increments. What do you need to do to hit that point in 3 years? What do you need to do in the next 90 days? Yeah. So
when you write out your vision, write it out in the present tense, right? Write it out as it is right now, because that's the way your mind thinks. I mean, as it is, and it comes into your life. Don't say, just I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be that, or this is, it's if you're telling yourself that, what you're telling yourself is, I am not that, and sometime later, not now, I'm going to be that, and that's you never hit later. You never get there. You're only living today.
We talk about time a lot, but the universe doesn't recognize time. So the way the energy works is that, you create what you say is happening now. So instead of I will be, I could be, I can be, you can say I am, right? So when Eric talks about writing out in present tense, not writing out what's happening today, but write that future vision in present tense. So going back to what I was talking about with my bucket list vacation, right? I've got 3 different types of visions like that for, the ideal work day, a creative day, and a travel day. And the travel day, I literally wrote the story of what happens on that day. And I shared a little bit about it, all the way from the drive to the airport in the back of the town car to all the way into, landing at the villa in Tuscany that we're going to be at for 6 weeks while our family floats in and out. It's like literally you can't do that and not envision being in that place. If you're doing it in a present tense moment, like if you're doing it as if it's happening right this moment, you can't help but be in the right energy for visualizing that future outcome for yourself. So that's a really, really powerful tool. And then make sure that you use specific measurable goals. So bring everything back to a number. This is really easy to use as an example, like for the physical part, right? I'm going to work out 3 days a week. And then you just check that stuff off the list as you do it. Just literally, you want to keep track of it too. There's lots of different ways you can do that. But again, keep it simple. Don't go looking for the ideal solution. Just write down a checklist. These are the things, check them off every day. Draw lines on a piece of paper, whatever you have to do just to keep track, or just put it in your calendar or in your daily journal or your tracking system, whatever you use.
So last little thing, and then we'll be done for this for now. But just like a side note, 45% of our daily habits are unintentional or unaccounted for. That's almost half of our day where we're just drifting through life. And I would say most people all day drift through their life. They just kind of get up and whatever happens, they're reacting all the time. They're never creating. And so don't live. Another mantra, another thing that I live by is I want to be a creator, not a consumer. There's consumers and there's creators. Almost everybody is just consuming all the time. But if you're a creator, if you're creating your life, then you're just separating yourself from everybody. And there's really not any competition when it comes to that type of thing. So because there's so few people that do it. Going back to my first original thought when we talked about this. So just pay attention and realize when you're kind of drifting right around and not creating, and get yourself back on point and pay attention and start to create the life that you're looking for.
For sure. And when you do these things, you want to put it where you can read it. Like when you create the story of your future self, you want to put it someplace where you can see it. In fact, I would recommend that you take multiple copies of it and put it every place that you're going to be throughout the day. So if you have a commute to work, put it someplace where when you get in the car, you can read through it really quickly, or even stick it on your dashboard, stick it on your bathroom mirror, put it on your nightstand, stick it on your refrigerator. If you're trying to lose weight, stick it on your refrigerator, okay? Seriously, because I put it right next to the door so that you have to look at it before you just go into that drifting pattern that Eric just talked about, to open that refrigerator and grab some piece of junk, right? So, laminate it, put it in the shower. Shower is amazing, like for coming up with great ideas for this stuff. But, by reading your future self every day, you bring that awareness level to where you want to be and where you want to go. So your subconscious just continues to pick up on ways to help you achieve your goals and help you achieve the life that you want. What happens then is more opportunities show up, momentum builds. Before you know it, you've accomplished your goals well before the 3-year mark in many cases. And then every morning when you read your future self, you have an exact idea also where you're going. So you use that as the roadmap for your day. So you guys, this is your life. All right? Take control, set the intention, you decide where you want to go. Anything you want to say to wrap up, Eric?
Say, just make it happen. Do something today. It's Finish Strong Friday. Have this be your thing that you're going to finish strong on. This on creating your future self. If you've got nothing absolutely scheduled right now, sit down, take some time, write it out. Focus on the 6 different areas of your life and start making, creating the life of your dreams. Okay.
We've been at this work long enough to know that there are some of you, and you know who you are, who have been watching these recordings or doing things like this, even if it wasn't us, for, months, weeks, months, years, maybe your whole life. And you keep saying, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then you're back the next week listening to the next thing and it's still not done. Guys, if you do nothing else besides this, This can drive your life to exactly where you want it to be if you do nothing else but just this one process and just stay consistent with it. You know, the thing is, it's really easy also to get off track. What's easy to do is easy not to do. So it's easy for you to drift and get off the track. In a couple of weeks, you're like, oh, I've been reading this over and over and over, and I don't see the magical gold bricks landing on my door, right? Well, it doesn't really quite work like that. You know, you have to be consistent with your own process, and you will go through ebbs and flows of how you feel about that process. It's really important that on those moments where you're not feeling the momentum, to just do it anyway, because you'll push through that and things will show up and it'll surprise you. You'll break through. You'll have a level of growth that you don't even recognize yourself. Even in 90 days, you won't even recognize yourself if you're consistent with processes like this. Don't even get started about 3 years. I mean, 3 years, you're a different you. You are your future self. So this is your roadmap to your future self. We appreciate you guys being here. We love you guys. Go out, hashtag FSF, Finish Strong Friday, and go tear it up. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you.
Make it happen. We believe in you guys.
All right. You guys take care. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.